Anita, you and I follow the polls and the presidential candidates and politics probably more than the average bear. And what I find pretty, disenfranchising is what's actually happening in the polls and out there in the field versus what the conglomerate media is reporting on. And I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about some of the disparities that you're seeing.
Well, I see disparities every day. Certainly, I'm a big supporter of Hillary Clinton and never make any bones about that. I think that she's the best candidate out there. Clearly, she's ahead by a country mile. But if you turn on the media every day, there was just an ABC headline, her faltering poll numbers are inching back up. I said, what kind of a headline is that? How about her still formidable poll numbers are surging once again? That is more accurate. She's ahead of everybody else by 20. Reuters has her ahead by 39, count them, 39 points. So there's a big difference between what is being reported by the media in order to have you do clickbait so that they can make a horse race out of this versus what's really happening. But
Right.
beyond any of the polling, which doesn't really matter to me at this point, what's the difference? What the polling is, we as an American people need to focus on what the candidates on the left and the right are actually saying, what their policies are. And there is really not a lot of coverage on that. For instance, Bernie Sanders, just did a big flip-flop on gun control in
Yes.
advance of the debate because obviously he knows that his positions are not all that popular living in a hunting state of Vermont. So, that's something, is the media really covering that? Are they saying this one flip-flopped or that? What are we getting versus what's really
Right.
happening?
And it's not as if gun control isn't relevant. That's the thing. You don't even have to look far. I would argue that we all are living in a hunting state, sadly, right now these days. And on
It's
the
a good
Republican
point.
side, I think it's similar. I talk to people that are frustrated because they don't even really feel like they're getting the chance to get to know a lot of these candidates because of exactly what you're saying, the clickbait. Jeb Bush is excellent clickbait for the New York Times and other outlets. And so I could read a story about what does he think about scrambled eggs versus omelets? And meanwhile, you have 12 other candidates that are in that field that no one's talking about. In Florida, there was a big story about the fact that Marco Rubio is going and quietly getting this money that as candidates drop out or they lose support, he's going around and getting that financial support. Why aren't we talking about him as a front runner? He's polling way ahead of Jeb Bush. So that's just one example of how I feel like we're not getting the true story on either side.
Well, the New York Times, for instance, I think that's who you're alluding to, is fond of pushing Jeb Bush in front of
Yes.
you every single day. I mean, they have a love affair with the Bushes that has been going on 25 years. That's all that I can see, because his numbers are really abysmal, considering that he's supposed to be the front runner, and everyone assumed years ago that he was going to be the one who captured the nomination. If we allow the media to dictate the race, as they have been trying to do, then he may yet be, but his poll numbers are pretty abysmal considering how much money he's raised and how much name recognition. Well, the name recognition may not be helping him. Obviously, he's trying to run as Jeb exclamation point so that we don't, he seems to have forgotten that his last name is Bush and seems to want us to forget that too. We ain't gonna forget, my dear, sorry. But they're talking about his yoga mats and Tesla brochures, his religious beliefs. This is the kind of softball coverage he's been
Right.
getting from all people, I can't believe it, the New York Times. So, this is really forcing the American people into a corner where you've got to go to social media, the fifth estate, if you will, to find
Right.
alternate Vox, to find all sorts of other mediums to get the news that mainstream media is not giving you.
Absolutely. And for people that are concerned about the process and they want to see more, they can do a couple of other things. This is insider stuff here, deep, dark secrets. But one is to write to the editor, leave comments, and even write to the sponsors and say, hey, I'm a supporter of this candidate. I want you to cover them more. And the other thing, too, is whenever you get those phone calls in the middle of dinner and they say, hey, would you like to take a survey? And you say, no, and hang up. Hey, guess what? That might have been the survey that says what candidate you're supporting. Take the survey, go online and take the surveys because those polls are a sample. And if you're not part of the poll, your voice isn't heard. So I would argue that people still have a shot to not just change the election, but change the media coverage.
That is so fascinating. The other thing that I find amazing is that the media has completely made up a fiction all summer that Joe Biden is running. And I have never seen this in my life before. He is in every single poll against Hillary Clinton. How can you poll somebody who hasn't even put forth a policy paper and hasn't even said he's in the race? Have you ever seen anything like this? And while we're on the subject, since we're going, into the first series of Democratic debates, I would like people to ask themselves when they're watching the debates, we're going to be airing this after the first one airs, but what did the mediators ask? What was
Right.
answered? And how was the spin afterwards? What did you see? Because you need to
Exactly.
trust what you actually saw. If you didn't watch it, if you didn't listen to the person say it from front to back, don't trust anything that the mainstream media is telling you.
Exactly. Everything from who won the debate to, oh my
Right.
gosh, that was a great one-liner, and the crowd really responded. Really, because I heard nothing. And I love that the public policy polling recently did a really great article that said, listen, enough of this theoretical. We've matched Hillary Clinton against Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders and anyone else we could think of. They literally matched her against Al Gore. They dusted John Kerry off. Elizabeth Warren, like anyone, like Susan B. Anthony, I'm kidding, but like anyone they could think of. And they said, I don't care what narrative you paint, she's still leading. Now, why is this important if you're not a Hillary supporter? Because, first of all, if you are working hard for a campaign, you need to know where you stand so you know what to do. So if you're on the other side of and you want to support another progressive candidate, great, know what's really happening. And if you're on the Republican side, then this idea of spending energy ginning up Bernie Sanders and getting behind him or someone else, it's just wasted energy the way it stands right now. If you love that candidate, dive in, support them. But if you think that by supporting them, you're going to get her to stumble, every poll has news for you. It's just not happening.
No, it may not be happening, but it's important for the American people, particularly supporters of other candidates, to understand that Republicans are trying to gin up competition against her. Why would they be doing this? They do it because they know she is the most formidable and she has the best chance of winning the White House. And they are terrified. They are shaking in their boots to run against her in the general election. They know that this is a very sophisticated politician with great policies and she's ready to defend them. They fear her. That's why they want to have somebody else run. So that's something else that people need to pay attention to when they're listening to the media that keeps trying to paint a negative narrative about her
Absolutely.
versus other imaginary candidates.
And one thing I will say, because there's so much to talk about this, but I would like to compare this to the movie business, which is, if you're the type of person that looks at a list of movie names and then what the box office gross is, and that's how you decide what you want to go do that weekend, then good on you. But most people say, well, what's the movie about? Who's
Right,
in it? They want to know a
right.
little more substance. So if you're one of those more undecided people, don't let any poll tell you what to believe. Find out more substance and then make a decision.
Absolutely. And you know something, now with social media, you have an opportunity that is greater than ever before to really make contact personally with these candidates, every single one of them, and find out where every one of them on the left or right stands on issues that matter to you. Because the only way we're going to make an educated decision, and we all have a right to get out there and vote our opinion, you need to find out what the candidate actually says, not what some media hack tells you they say, or even a more reliable reporter. It doesn't matter. It's almost impossible for somebody else to be 100% objective. Find out what they say for yourself and then make a decision. Thank you so much for being with us on another edition of Dare We Say. This is Shona Vercher and Anita Finley signing off.